365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, David Smoak, and Craig Smoak. Glenn on the text line. Y'all can take a deep breath. Longhorns will be gone in 2 years. Glenn's, of course, a huge Baylor fan. Ron Tamlin, and I do remember they were pretty good, dynamic. What was Oklahoma State's record with Barry Sanders? They had Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders, and I remember one year it would have been in the late 80s.
They won the Cotton Bowl, beat A&M, I believe, with Barry Sanders.
They had a team that was dynamic, and back then Nebraska was running the Big 8 and got into a shootout. And like one of those, it's like a score you see more recently, like 50-something to 30-something. So I do, yeah, Jimmy Johnson was there. And then, of course, Pat Jones.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the order of what that was like.
We have a guest.
Okay, I know that, but I was trying to make sure I got the thumbs up. Okay, here's a tweet from last night, Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority. Interesting, I made a few FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, to the Pac-12 schools asking for the Big 12's tampering that was forwarded to George Kliavkoff and have been told there are no responsive records. We're now joined by Jason Scheer, who joins us quite a bit, Pac-12, but also with Arizona. Jason, what did you expect to get from them?
Not much, but I mean, I laid it out and just said, look, George Kliavkoff said there were emails forwarded to him by university presidents, and I was just wondering if you would be able to provide those copies. And so far, it's been mostly non-responsive. Utah, I think, said the earliest they could even get back to me was December 22nd. So, I mean, and Pac-12 schools are kind of notoriously slow with that, but, if someone says something like that, you kind of got to request it and see if there's anything there.
Jason, in the last couple of weeks, the Big Ten TV deal has happened, and, that doesn't necessarily spell doom for the Pac-12, but there wasn't anything in there that said the Big Ten is done doing this. This is our plan until this date. Has the temperature of things that people have told you changed since the Big Ten TV deals come out?
I think it's gotten a little maybe colder for the Pac-12 stability in the sense that ESPN is it's a weird position because ESPN needs the content, but ESPN does not overpay. Their offer is going to be their offer, and you can negotiate them and all that. But it's not as if ESPN's going to say, oh crap, we lost out on the Big Ten. Here's $500 million because we need the Pac-12 so bad. It doesn't work that way. And I think now what we're seeing is Kevin Warren is basically not shutting the door at all on expansion. He's put out a few quotes about possible expansion, and you see all these reports, and the stability for the Pac-12 hasn't increased at all. You can make the argument it's gotten worse. And so it's one big giant waiting game right now, but I haven't talked to anyone around the Pac-12 that feels better now than they did a month ago or anything like that.
Jason, I know that you were listening to that Burke Magnus interview, and quite a few people have to try and glean some insight into kind of how everything's going right now. What were you able to glean from that podcast in Pac-12 terms, and what that may say for what this looks like moving forward?
Yeah, so the two things that stood out is, what I got from it at least was that ESPN is going to bid on the Pac-12. They are going to be involved with the Big 12 as well. But there were two times, I believe, where he said basically that the Pac-10, 12, whatever you want to call it, needs to stabilize. And he believes that there's no one that thinks they're going to stay at 10, that they will expand. And then he made the case that the Big 12 is already stable because they've gone through it. And they've already added the schools. They've got schools coming in. And so they've kind of gotten the realignment process over with. And I found that intriguing that ESPN is basically admitting right now that the Pac-10 isn't stable, and maybe they'll get there, but they're in kind of different positions, which people that are pro Big 12 have kind of been saying all along. And so it's kind of nice to hear ESPN say it as well. But it's just a matter of what they're going to bid on. And, he said, I don't know if I believe it, but he said that they don't play a hand in realignment, that, these conferences kind of realign and then go to them. But, that goes back also, if that truly is the case, with the expansion of the Pac-12, what schools can they add to make it financially worth it. And to me, I mean, San Diego State is probably the closest one out there. But beyond that, I don't know if there's a clear school to make it financially worth it. And at the end of the day, this is what this whole thing's been about for the Pac-12.
So you hear about the Pac-12 they have a year or two before their TV deal is done, when they negotiate that, trying to do that now, and then the Big Ten has to wait an extra year. But it was the Big 12. But it was a Big 12 because they were a year ahead of realignment. That because of what Texas and Oklahoma did, that gave them a jump start. It might be what is their, not savior, but what is their stabilizing factor?
Yeah, and also, like he said a few times, he said that they're in pretty similar windows. It's not like it's a major gap. I mean, it's a year, and you could pretty much start the negotiations anyway. But, you know, it's the stability in the Big 12 is there because they've already gone through this whole thing. So when we're talking about the Big 10, when we're talking about the Pac-12, schools moving and all that, you know, it's the Big 12's already done that. And maybe, you know, obviously they're not on the level of the Big 10 or the SEC, but in terms of realignment, they might be more fine than the other conferences that aren't the Big 10 and the SEC because they've already been through what these conferences are probably about to go through in the next, 6 to 12 months.
Of course, Magnus with ESPN and was on the John Alrand and Andrew Marchand podcast with Sports Business Journal as well.
Jason, how big of a season is this for Arizona in football that Jed Fish needs to take a step forward? They're trying to kind of solidify their spot in whatever conference they would be in, whether that's the Pac-12 or Big 12 or whatever, amalgam of things come out. Is this a big year for them to kind of show that not only are they viable from just being a big school in a large media market area, that they're actually good and can kind of be relevant? Yeah,
I mean, it was such a rebuilding project at Arizona that they're not going to all of a sudden be like a really good team. But I think they want to show that they're going in the right direction, realignment or not. I think that, they had a top 25 class coming off a 1-win season, which is almost unheard of. And, throughout camp, they've looked a lot better than they did last year when they were a 1-win team. And, the expectation isn't that they're going to make a bowl, but, they have a big opportunity. They're on the main CBS to open up their season, 12:30 in the afternoon, San Diego State. That's a big game for them in terms of, with all the realignment talk. It's kind of funny that's their first game is at San Diego State's new stadium. They're 6-point underdogs. Arizona is. And so if they can go out and win that game and all of a sudden the ratings are really good, and I expect the ratings to be pretty good, it becomes a talking point. And so I do think that, they'll never admit it, but there's probably some internal pressure to how we make that jump forward and make Arizona more attractive than it is now.
Jason, a lot of this stuff we've been talking about, the possibilities of a future Pac-12 exodus. I mean, we've been talking, all of us involved in talking college football for the last several weeks. Was there anything that Kevin Warren has said lately? There was the couple of excerpts from the HBO interview, and I don't think there was really much more to that interview, but he talked about their future growth. Did any of that really rattle the cage at all, or has that just kind of been known, so it's not as big of a deal?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, like the number 20 was kind of given to him by the host. It could be 20. It could be more. Kevin Warren's been very consistent in saying that he wants to be a disruptor. He basically wants to change college football. And he's not a guy that's just saying that for the heck of it. And so I don't think there's anything new and earth-shattering that he said, but he's been very consistent in his message about his view for the conference expansion and just kind of changing things. He mentioned, paying players and all that. That's because he basically wants his legacy to be a guy that has changed college football, dramatically. And that's kind of where it's headed. And he plays a large part in that.
Yeah. What did you say? How was that question you phrased with Kevin Warren to somebody yesterday? The domination of the world.
Oh, yeah, world. I mean, what's his, once he's done with world domination, what's the end? I mean, that's the thing. I think that no one, and I'm surprised Bryant Gumbel didn't ask him, like, what do you see it being? He just asked him an open-ended question, can you see 20? And he said, yeah. He could have said, could you see 100? He might have said yes. We don't know. I mean, it was just such an open-ended question that it was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much excitement over that, but like the number was given to him basically. And you're right. Like, Bryant Gumbel had said, what about 50? He could have said yeah to that too. And so I think that comment was kind of overblown, but on the same token, it's like he's clearly they're clearly thinking about further expansion. It's just a matter of when and what it's going to look like.
Jason, thank you very much as always. We appreciate you. Love following what you're putting out there, and good luck getting all that information from Kliavkoff.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Jason Scheer, 247 in Arizona, covers Arizona, but Wildcat Authority.
Freedom of information.